Sometimes the most life-changing moments disguise themselves as ordinary Tuesday afternoons. Maya Johnson had no way of knowing that choosing compassion over career advancement would lead her down a path she never imagined. As she hurried through the bustling streets of downtown Atlanta, clutching her worn leather portfolio and rehearsing interview answers in her head, she couldn't have predicted that a little girl's tears would become the key to unlocking a future beyond her wildest dreams. In a world that often rewards ambition over empathy, Maya was about to discover that sometimes the greatest opportunities come not from chasing success, but from simply choosing to care. Hey there, my beautiful family and friends, welcome back. If you're ready to settle in for another unforgettable story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Hearing from you, no matter where you are in the world, always makes my day. And hey, if you enjoy this one, stay tuned because there are always more powerful stories on the way, and you definitely don't want to miss them. Before we begin, do me a favor, like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone you love. You never know whose heart this story might touch. Now, let me take a moment to speak into your life. I pray that whatever burden you're carrying, you find peace that passes all understanding. I pray that in the quiet moments when no one sees your tears, God sees you and comforts you. I pray for healing over every broken piece of your heart and strength to rise again no matter how many times life has knocked you down. May joy find its way back to you, even if you've forgotten what it feels like. May your faith be reignited, your spirit lifted, and may love, real, deep, unconditional love, surround you wherever you are right now. You're not forgotten, you're not invisible, and you're not alone. This community is your safe space, and this story, like all the others, is here to remind you just how powerful your journey truly is. Now take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's dive into today's story. The alarm clock's shrill cry pierced through Maya Johnson's one-bedroom apartment at 5:30 a.m., just as it had every morning for the past 3 years. She rolled over in her narrow bed, her body aching from another 12-hour shift at Mercy General Hospital. The springs creaked in protest as she sat up, running her hands through her natural hair that she'd carefully wrapped the night before. Maya's apartment told the story of a woman making do with less. The walls were bare except for her nursing degree, a hard-earned Bachelor of Science in nursing from Georgia State University that had cost her 6 years of night classes and weekend shifts. Her furniture consisted of hand-me-downs from her grandmother and a few pieces she'd found at thrift stores. The kitchen table wobbled on an uneven leg, propped up with folded napkins that she replaced weekly. But Maya had learned to find beauty in simplicity. Fresh flowers from the grocery store's discount bin brightened her windowsill, and she'd sewn cheerful yellow curtains from fabric remnants. Her small space was clean, organized, and filled with the kind of warmth that comes from a grateful heart. As she padded to the bathroom, Maya caught her reflection in the cracked mirror above the sink. At 28, she carried herself with quiet dignity despite the exhaustion that seemed permanently etched around her dark brown eyes. Her grandmother used to say she had healing hands and a servant's heart, qualities that made her an exceptional nurse but hadn't yet translated into financial stability. The shower water ran lukewarm at best. Maya had called the landlord 3 times about the water heater, but Mr. Peterson always had the same response. "I'll get to it when I can." She'd learned to make peace with cold showers, just like she'd made peace with the leaky faucet in the kitchen and the temperamental air conditioning unit that only worked when it felt like it. After her quick shower, Maya stood before her small closet, surveying her limited professional wardrobe. Today wasn't just any day. Today was the day that could change everything. She had an interview at 2 p.m. for a nurse practitioner position at Atlanta Children's Healthcare, one of the most prestigious pediatric hospitals in the Southeast. The position would nearly double her current salary and provide the kind of benefits that would allow her to finally breathe financially. She selected her best outfit, a navy blue blazer she'd found at a consignment shop, paired with black slacks that she'd hemmed herself. The blazer had a small stain near the left pocket that she'd tried everything to remove, but she'd positioned her portfolio to cover it during previous interviews. Her shoes were comfortable flats that had seen better days, but were polished to a respectable shine. Maya's morning routine was precise, born from years of making every minute count. She prepared a simple breakfast of oatmeal with a sliced banana, filling, nutritious, and cheap. While eating, she reviewed her interview notes one final time, practicing answers to common questions she'd researched online. Why do you want to work in pediatric nursing? She whispered to herself, then answered aloud. Children have always been my passion. There's something magical about their resilience and their ability to find joy, even in difficult circumstances. I believe every child deserves not just medical care, but compassionate care that honors their dignity and supports their family during challenging times. The words came from her heart. Maya had discovered her calling during her clinical rotations in the pediatric ward. While other nursing students found children challenging, their inability to articulate symptoms, their fear of medical procedures, their emotional volatility, Maya found them inspiring. She had a natural gift for connecting with young patients, for making them laugh even when they were scared, for explaining procedures in ways that made sense to their developing minds. At 7 a.m., Maya gathered her things for her current job at Mercy General. Her work bag contained the essentials: stethoscope, pen light, comfortable shoes for her shift, and a small notebook where she jotted down reminders and observations about her patients. She also packed a light lunch, a peanut butter sandwich and an apple, because the hospital cafeteria prices were beyond her budget. The bus ride to Mercy General took 45 minutes, winding through neighborhoods that told Atlanta's complex story. Maya watched the city wake up through the scratched windows. Construction workers heading to job sites, mothers walking children to school, elderly folks settling onto park benches with their morning coffee. She found peace in these observations, in the reminder that everyone was fighting their own battles, pursuing their own dreams. Mercy General Hospital sat in a part of town that had seen better days. The building itself was functional but tired, with fluorescent lights that flickered and hallways that echoed with the constant hum of overworked equipment. Maya had been working here for 3 years, ever since graduating from nursing school, and while she was grateful for the job, she knew it wasn't where she wanted to spend her career. The emergency department where Maya worked was perpetually understaffed and overwhelmed. Patients waited hours for treatment, families slept in uncomfortable chairs, and the nursing staff ran from crisis to crisis with barely enough time to provide the kind of care they'd been trained to give. Maya often stayed late, unpaid, to ensure her patients received proper attention. Her supervisor, Janet, had warned her multiple times about giving too much of yourself, but Maya couldn't help it. It wasn't in her nature to do anything halfway. "Morning, Maya," called out Dr. Rodriguez as she clocked in. "We've got a full house already." 3 ambulances came in during the night shift, and the waiting rooms packed. Maya nodded, tying her hair back and washing her hands at the station. "What do you need me to take?" "Room 3 has an elderly gentleman with chest pains. His daughter's been here all night, and she's pretty anxious. Room 7 is a teenager who came in with his friends, possible overdose, but he's not talking. And we've got a walk-in family in the waiting room, little girl with a fever that won't break." The morning flew by in the familiar rhythm of emergency nursing. Maya moved from room to room, taking vitals, administering medications, offering comfort to frightened patients and their families. She had a gift for making people feel heard, for finding the right words in moments of crisis. In room 3, she spent extra time with Mrs. Patterson, whose father was undergoing tests for his chest pains. "He raised me by himself after my mother died," Mrs. Patterson explained, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know what I'll do if something happens to him." Maya pulled up a chair, something she wasn't supposed to have time for. "Tell me about him," she said gently. "What kind of man is he?" For 10 minutes, Mrs. Patterson shared stories about her father, his love of gardening, his terrible jokes, his habit of leaving encouraging notes in her lunch when she was a child. Maya listened with her whole attention, occasionally asking questions that showed she was truly hearing every word. "Thank you," Mrs. Patterson said finally. "I know you're busy, but thank you for seeing him as a person, not just a patient." This was why Maya loved nursing, despite the long hours and modest pay. These moments of human connection, of being present for people during their most vulnerable times, felt like sacred work. Around noon, Maya began to feel the familiar flutter of pre-interview nerves. She'd requested to leave early for a personal appointment, and Janet had grudgingly agreed, though Maya could tell her supervisor wasn't pleased about the short staffing. "You sure you can't reschedule whatever this is?" Janet asked as Maya prepared to leave. "We're swamped, and you're one of our best." Maya felt a pang of guilt. She hated leaving her colleagues in a difficult situation, but this interview represented her future. "I'm sorry, Janet. It's really important. Everything okay? You're not in some kind of trouble, are you?" "No trouble," Maya assured her. Just an opportunity one can't miss. The bus ride from Mercy General to downtown Atlanta took an hour during midday traffic. Maya used the time to review her portfolio one final time, checking that she had copies of her nursing license, her certifications, letters of recommendation, and examples of her continuing education efforts. She'd even included a letter from a patient's family, thanking her for the exceptional care she'd provided during their child's extended stay. As the bus wound through the city, Maya allowed herself to dream. The nurse practitioner position would mean more than just better pay. It would mean respect, autonomy, the ability to make a real difference in children's lives. She could finally afford a reliable car, maybe even start saving for a house. She could take her grandmother out for nice dinners instead of always cooking at home. She could stop choosing between paying the electric bill and buying groceries. But more than the financial benefits, the position represented validation. Maya had worked so hard to get where she was, putting herself through nursing school while working multiple part-time jobs, studying late into the night, sacrificing social opportunities to focus on her career. She'd proven herself at Mercy General, earning the respect of doctors and the gratitude of countless patients. This interview was her chance to take the next step. The bus pulled up to her stop at 1:15 p.m., giving her 45 minutes to walk to Atlanta Children's Healthcare and compose herself before the interview. Maya had mapped out the route carefully, accounting for traffic lights and construction delays. She couldn't afford to be late. As she stepped off the bus, Maya took a deep breath of the crisp October air. The leaves were just beginning to change colors, painting the city in shades of gold and amber. Despite her nerves, she felt a surge of optimism. Today could be the day everything changed. She walked with purpose through the busy downtown streets, her portfolio clutched securely under her arm. Other professionals hurried past, men in expensive suits talking on phones, women in designer heels clicking confidently across the pavement. Maya held her head high, reminding herself that she belonged here too. Her clothes might not be as expensive, her shoes might not be as new, but her qualifications were solid and her heart was in the right place. Have you ever had a moment where you had to choose between your own advancement and helping someone else? Maya's about to face that exact choice. What would you do in her situation? Sometimes our biggest opportunities come disguised as interruptions to our plans. Maya checked her phone as she turned onto Peachtree Street. 1:35 p.m. Perfect timing. Atlanta Children's Healthcare was just 3 blocks ahead, its modern glass facade gleaming in the afternoon sun. She could see families coming and going through the main entrance, some carrying balloons and flowers, others with the worried expressions of parents facing medical uncertainty. As she walked, Maya mentally rehearsed her opening statement one more time. Good afternoon, I'm Maya Johnson, and I'm thrilled to be here today to discuss the nurse practitioner position. I've been following Atlanta Children's Healthcare's innovative pediatric programs, particularly your work in family-centered care. The sound of crying interrupted her thoughts. At first, Maya assumed it was coming from inside the hospital. Children often cried in medical settings, and the sound carried through the glass doors. But as she got closer, she realized the sobbing was coming from a small figure huddled on a bench just outside the hospital's main entrance. Maya's nursing instincts kicked in immediately. A child in distress was never something she could ignore, regardless of the circumstances. She slowed her pace, studying the situation more carefully. The little girl couldn't have been more than 6 or 7 years old. She was beautifully dressed in a powder blue coat with pearl buttons and matching patent leather shoes that probably cost more than Maya's entire outfit. Her dark hair was styled in neat braids with silk ribbons, and she carried a small purse that looked like it belonged in a boutique window. But despite her expensive clothes, she was crying with the heartbroken desperation that only children can manage, the kind of tears that come from deep fear and confusion. Maya glanced at her phone again. 1:38 p.m. She had 22 minutes to get inside, find the right office, and compose herself for the most important interview of her career. Every rational part of her mind said to keep walking. Someone else would help the child. Hospital security would notice. The girl's parents were probably just inside, dealing with paperwork or talking to doctors. But Maya's feet had already stopped moving. She looked around, searching for any adult who might be responsible for the child. The sidewalk was busy with the usual downtown foot traffic, but everyone seemed focused on their own destinations. A few people glanced at the crying girl with mild concern before hurrying on their way. No one was stopping. Maya approached slowly, not wanting to frighten the child further. She crouched down to the little girl's eye level, maintaining a respectful distance. "Hi there, sweetheart," Maya said in the gentle voice she used with her youngest patients. "My name is Maya. I'm a nurse. Are you okay?" The little girl looked up with tear-filled eyes that were a striking shade of green. Her face was flushed from crying, and she clutched a small stuffed elephant to her chest. "I can't find my grandmama," the child said between sobs. "She was right here, and then she was gone, and I don't know where she went." Maya's heart clenched. She'd seen this scenario too many times in the hospital. Children separated from their caregivers in moments of medical crisis, confusion, or simple miscommunication. The fear in a child's eyes when they couldn't find their trusted adult was one of the most heartbreaking things she'd ever witnessed. "What's your name, honey?" Maya asked, settling more comfortably on the sidewalk beside the bench. "Zoe," the little girl whispered. "Zoe Elizabeth Montgomery." "That's a beautiful name, Zoe. Can you tell me what happened? When did you last see your grandmama?" Zoe wiped her nose with the back of her hand, leaving a small streak on her expensive coat. "We came to see the doctors because grandmama wasn't feeling good. She told me to wait right here on this bench while she went inside to talk to someone. She said she'd be right back, but that was... Zoe's face scrunched up as she tried to calculate time the way children do. "That was a really, really long time ago." Maya checked her phone discreetly. 1:41 p.m. 19 minutes until her interview. "Okay, Zoe, I'm going to help you find your grandmama, all right? But first, I need to ask you some questions to make sure we find the right person. Can you tell me what your grandmama looks like?" Zoe nodded eagerly, seeming to find comfort in having a plan. "She has silver hair that she wears in a bun, and she always smells like roses. She's wearing a purple dress today with a pearl necklace, and she walks with a pretty cane that has flowers on it." "That's very good, Zoe. You're being so brave and helpful. Do you know your grandmama's full name?" "Eleanor Montgomery, but everyone calls her Grandmama Ellie." Maya made mental notes, already formulating a plan. "Do you have a phone number for your grandmama? Or maybe your parents?" Zoe shook her head. "Grandmama says I'm too little for a phone, and Mommy and Daddy are in Europe for work. That's why I'm staying with Grandmama." The situation was becoming clearer, but also more complicated. Maya glanced at the hospital entrance, then back at Zoe's tear-stained face. Every instinct she had as a nurse, as a human being, told her she couldn't leave this child alone and frightened. "Zoe, I'm going to help you find your grandmama, but I need you to stay close to me, okay? We're going to go inside the hospital and ask the nice people at the front desk if they've seen her." Zoe nodded and stood up, slipping her small hand into Maya's with complete trust. The gesture nearly broke Maya's heart. This child, who had every reason to be wary of strangers, was placing her faith in someone she'd just met. Maya checked her phone one more time. 1:43 p.m. 17 minutes. They walked through the automatic doors of Atlanta Children's Healthcare together. The lobby was spacious and bright, designed to be welcoming to families. Colorful murals covered the walls, and there was a play area where several children were building with oversized blocks while their parents watched nearby. The information desk was staffed by a friendly-looking woman in her 50s wearing a volunteer badge that read Mrs. Chun. "Excuse me," Maya said, approaching the desk with Zoe still holding her hand. "I'm hoping you can help us. This is Zoe, and she's looking for her grandmother, Eleanor Montgomery. They were here together, but got separated." Mrs. Chen's expression immediately shifted to one of concern and professionalism. "Oh my, let me see what I can do. Eleanor Montgomery, you said?" She began typing on her computer. "Can you tell me what department they might have been visiting?" Maya looked down at Zoe encouragingly. "Do you remember what kind of doctor your grandmama was going to see?" Zoe thought hard, her little face scrunched in concentration. She said something about her heart. "She's been really tired lately, and sometimes she has to sit down when we're walking." "Cardiology," Mrs. Chun said, nodding. "Let me call up to that department." She picked up the phone and dialed an extension. "Hi, this is Mrs. Chun at the information desk. I have a little girl here looking for her grandmother, Eleanor Montgomery. She may have had an appointment in cardiology today." "Yes, I'll hold." Maya felt Zoe squeeze her hand tighter. She looked down to see the little girl staring up at her with a mixture of hope and lingering fear. "It's going to be okay, sweetheart," Maya said softly. "Mrs. Chun is very good at helping people find each other." "Are you a doctor?" Zoe asked. "I'm a nurse. I take care of people when they're sick or hurt, kind of like doctors do, but in a different way. Do you work here? Maya hesitated for just a moment. No, I work at a different hospital. But I'm here today for a very important meeting. Mrs. Chun hung up the phone, her expression brightening. Good news. Eleanor Montgomery is indeed upstairs in the cardiology department. She's with Dr. Williams right now, but they should be finishing up soon. The nurse up there said Mrs. Montgomery has been asking about her granddaughter. Relief flooded through Maya, followed immediately by a glance at her phone. 1:47 p.m. 13 minutes. Can we go see her? Zoe asked hopefully. Mrs. Chin shook her head gently. I'm sorry, sweetie, but the cardiology department is restricted access. Only patients and their immediate family members are allowed up there during appointments. But I can call and let them know you're here, and your grandmama can come down to get you as soon as she's finished. Zoe's face fell. But what if she forgets about me again? She didn't forget about you, honey, Maya said, kneeling down to Zoe's level again. Sometimes when grown-ups are talking to doctors, it takes longer than they expect. Your grandmama is probably worried about you too. Mrs. Chen nodded in agreement. The nurse upstairs said your grandmother has been asking about you several times during her appointment. She's definitely not forgotten about you. Maya looked around the lobby, then back at Zoe. The little girl was calmer now, but still clinging to Maya's hand like a lifeline. Maya could leave her here with Mrs. Chun. The volunteer seemed kind and capable, and Zoe's grandmother would be down soon. But something in Zoe's eyes stopped her. The child had been abandoned once today, even if unintentionally. Maya couldn't bring herself to be the second adult to walk away from her, even for good reasons. How long do you think the appointment will take? Maya asked Mrs. Chun. Cardiology appointments can vary, but probably another 15 to 20 minutes. Dr. Williams is very thorough. Maya's phone showed 1:48 p.m. 12 minutes until her interview. She thought about the months of preparation that had led to this moment. The carefully crafted resume, the hours spent researching the hospital and the position, the outfit she'd saved up to buy, the dreams she'd built around this opportunity. This interview could change her entire life trajectory. But looking down at Zoe, Maya realized that some things were more important than career advancement. This child needed her right now, and Maya had never been able to turn her back on someone who needed her. Zoe, Maya said, making her decision, would you like me to wait with you until your grandmama comes down? Zoe's face lit up with relief and gratitude. Yes, please. Will you really stay? I'll really stay, Maya promised, even as she felt her interview opportunity slipping away. She pulled out her phone and found the number for Atlanta Children's Healthcare's Human Resources Department. Her hands were slightly shaky as she dialed. Human Resources, this is Jennifer speaking. Hi, Jennifer. This is Maya Johnson. I have an interview scheduled for 2 p.m. today with the pediatric nursing team for the nurse practitioner position. Yes, Ms. Johnson, we're expecting you. Are you calling to confirm? Maya took a deep breath. Actually, I'm calling because I'm going to need to reschedule. I'm currently at the hospital helping a lost child find her grandmother, and I can't leave her until she's safely reunited with her family. There was a pause on the other end of the line. I see. Well, that's very admirable of you, Ms. Johnson. However, I should let you know that we have several candidates interviewing for this position, and rescheduling can be quite difficult. The hiring committee has very limited availability. Maya felt her heart sink, but she looked down at Zoe, who was now sitting on a nearby chair, swinging her legs and humming softly to her stuffed elephant. The child trusted her completely. I understand, Maya said, but I can't leave a frightened child alone, even for an interview. If there's any possibility of rescheduling, I would be incredibly grateful. If not, I understand. Let me see what I can do, Jennifer said, though her tone suggested the chances were slim. I'll call you back if we can work something out. Maya hung up and sat down next to Zoe, who immediately scooted closer to her. Are you in trouble because of me? Zoe asked with the perceptiveness that children sometimes display. Maya considered how to answer honestly without burdening the child with adult concerns. I had something important to do today, but helping you is more important. Sometimes we have to make choices about what matters most. My grandmama says that too. She says being kind is more important than being busy. Maya smiled, struck by the wisdom in those simple words. Your grandmama sounds very smart. They sat together in comfortable silence for a few minutes, watching the activity in the lobby. Maya pointed out interesting things to keep Zoe distracted. A therapy dog visiting with patients, a group of medical students in their white coats, a volunteer pushing a cart full of books and games. Maya, Zoe said suddenly. Yes, sweetheart. Thank you for staying with me. I was really scared. Maya felt tears prick at her eyes. You're very welcome, Zoe. I'm glad I could help. At 2:05 p.m., Maya's phone rang. It was Jennifer from HR. Ms. Johnson, I spoke with the hiring committee, and unfortunately, we won't be able to reschedule your interview. The position needs to be filled quickly, and we have other qualified candidates available today. Maya closed her eyes, feeling the weight of her decision. I understand. Thank you for checking. I will say, Ms. Johnson, that your reason for missing the interview was unusual. The committee was quite impressed that you would prioritize helping a child over your career advancement. If any similar positions open up in the future, I hope you'll consider applying again. Thank you, Maya said. I will. As she hung up, Maya felt a complex mix of emotions. Disappointment, certainly. She'd worked so hard for this opportunity. But also a strange sense of peace. She'd made the right choice, even if it cost her dearly. Was that about your important meeting? Zoe asked. Yes, it was. Are you sad? Maya looked at this remarkable little girl who had somehow become the most important thing in her day. A little sad, but not sorry. Some things are more important than meetings. At 2:15 p.m., the elevator doors opened and an elegant elderly woman emerged, moving quickly despite her ornate walking cane. She had silver hair styled in a perfect bun, wore a purple dress with pearls, and carried herself with unmistakable dignity and authority. Grandmama! Zoe shouted, jumping up from her chair and running across the lobby. Eleanor Montgomery caught her granddaughter in a fierce hug, her composed facade cracking to reveal deep relief and love. Oh, my darling girl. I'm so sorry. The appointment took much longer than expected, and when I came back outside, you weren't on the bench. I was so frightened. Maya stood up, watching the reunion with a warm heart. This was why she'd missed her interview, for this moment of a child being safely returned to someone who loved her. Eleanor looked up and noticed Maya standing nearby. Are you the person who helped Zoe? This is Maya, Zoe announced, pulling her grandmother over. She's a nurse, and she stayed with me the whole time, and she missed her important meeting because of me. Eleanor's green eyes, so similar to Zoe's, studied Maya with sharp intelligence. You missed a meeting to help my granddaughter? Maya felt suddenly self-conscious under the older woman's intense gaze. It wasn't a problem. I couldn't leave her alone and scared. What kind of meeting? Eleanor asked. A job interview, Maya admitted. But it's fine. There will be other opportunities. Eleanor's expression shifted to something Maya couldn't quite read. A job interview here at the hospital? Yes, ma'am. For a nurse practitioner position in pediatrics. And you gave that up to sit with a stranger's child? Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks. She wasn't a stranger once I met her. She was just a scared little girl who needed someone to stay with her. Eleanor was quiet for a long moment, studying Maya with those penetrating green eyes. Finally, she spoke. Young lady, I don't know your last name, but I know your character. What you did today, choosing compassion over career advancement, that's the rarest kind of goodness. Anyone would have done the same thing, Maya said, though she knew that wasn't entirely true. No, Eleanor said firmly. They wouldn't have. I've lived long enough to know the difference between people who talk about kindness and people who live it. Zoe tugged on her grandmother's dress. Grandmama, can Maya come have dinner with us? She's my friend now. Eleanor smiled, the expression transforming her entire face. That's a wonderful idea, darling. Maya, would you join us for dinner? It's the least I can do to thank you for taking care of my most precious treasure. Maya hesitated. She should probably get home, start looking for other job opportunities, figure out her next steps. But there was something about this grandmother and granddaughter that drew her in. I don't want to impose. You wouldn't be imposing, Eleanor said. You'd be honoring us with your presence. Maya just made a choice that cost her a dream job, but saved a little girl from fear and loneliness. Have you ever had to choose between your own goals and helping someone else? Sometimes the most important moments in our lives come disguised as interruptions. What do you think Eleanor Montgomery is really thinking as she watches this young nurse who sacrificed her own opportunity for a stranger's child? Maya found herself in the back seat of a sleek black Mercedes, watching the Atlanta skyline blur past the tinted windows. She'd never been in a car this expensive. The leather seats were softer than her couch at home, and the ride was so smooth she could barely feel the road beneath them. Where are we going for dinner? Maya asked, still feeling somewhat surreal about the entire situation. Grandmama's house, Zoe announced from her booster seat, swinging her legs excitedly. She has the best cook in the whole world, and there's a garden with butterflies and a library with a ladder that slides. Eleanor smiled at her granddaughter's enthusiasm. I hope you don't mind eating at home, Maya. After the day we've had, I thought a quiet evening would be nice. That sounds perfect, Maya said, though she was beginning to wonder what she'd gotten herself into. The car alone suggested that Eleanor Montgomery was far from ordinary, and Zoe's description of the house sounded like something from a fairy tale. As they drove through increasingly upscale neighborhoods, Maya's phone buzzed with a text from her roommate Keisha. How did the interview go? I'm making celebration dinner just in case. Maya stared at the message, unsure how to respond. How could she explain that she'd missed the most important interview of her career to help a lost child, and now she was having dinner with that child's grandmother in what appeared to be the most expensive car she'd ever seen? She typed back, long story. We'll call you later. Everything all right, dear? Eleanor asked, noticing Maya's expression. Just my roommate checking on how my day went, Maya said, tucking her phone away. It's been an unusual day. The best days usually are, Eleanor replied with a knowing smile. They turned through ornate iron gates that opened automatically, revealing a winding driveway lined with ancient oak trees. Maya's breath caught as the house came into view. It wasn't just a house, it was a mansion. The Georgian-style estate sprawled across perfectly manicured grounds, with tall white columns and windows that gleamed in the late afternoon sun. This is where you live? Maya asked, unable to hide her amazement. Home sweet home, Zoe said matter-of-factly, as if everyone lived in houses that belonged in architectural magazines. Eleanor helped Zoe out of her booster seat, while Maya stood on the circular driveway, trying to process what she was seeing. The house was beautiful, but it was also intimidating. Maya had grown up in a small apartment with her grandmother, and even now, her own place could fit into what appeared to be just the front entryway of this mansion. Maya, are you coming? Zoe called, already skipping toward the front door. Yes, sorry, Maya said, hurrying to catch up. The interior of the house was even more impressive than the exterior. The foyer featured a crystal chandelier that cast rainbow patterns on the marble floor, and a grand staircase curved elegantly to the second floor. Original oil paintings lined the walls, and fresh flowers arranged in crystal vases filled the air with a subtle fragrance. Mrs. Montgomery. A warm voice called from down the hallway. A woman in her 60s appeared, wearing a crisp apron over her dress. How did the appointment go? And who is this lovely young lady? The appointment went well, Rosa, thank you. And this is Maya Johnson, the angel who took care of Zoe when we got separated at the hospital. Maya, this is Rosa Martinez, who keeps our household running and our stomachs happy. Rosa's face lit up with genuine warmth. Any friend of Miss Zoe's is family here. Are you staying for dinner? If that's still okay, Maya said, feeling increasingly out of place in her discount store blazer and worn shoes. More than okay. I was just preparing dinner. Do you have any dietary restrictions? Maya shook her head, still trying to adjust to being in a house with staff. At home, she was lucky if she had time to heat up a frozen dinner between shifts. Wonderful. Dinner will be ready in about an hour. Miss Zoe, why don't you show Maya the garden while I finish cooking? Zoe grabbed Maya's hand with the easy familiarity of childhood friendship. Come on. You have to see the butterflies. The garden was like something from a dream. Winding stone paths led through carefully tended flower beds, past a fountain where koi fish swam in lazy circles, to a greenhouse filled with exotic plants. Zoe ran ahead, pointing out her favorite flowers and chattering about the different butterflies that visited each season. That's where I like to read, Zoe said, pointing to a small gazebo surrounded by rose bushes. Grandmama says reading in the garden makes stories come alive. Maya found herself relaxing for the first time all day. Despite the grandeur of the setting, there was something peaceful about watching Zoe's joy in simple things. The way she gently touched flower petals, her excitement over a ladybug crawling on her finger, her careful explanation of which plants the butterflies liked best. Your grandmother has created something beautiful here, Maya said. She says gardens are like people. Zoe replied with the seriousness that children sometimes display when repeating adult wisdom. They need love and attention to grow properly. They were interrupted by Eleanor's voice calling from the house. Girls, dinner is ready. The dining room was elegant but not ostentatious, with a table that could seat 12 but was set intimately for 3. Rosa had prepared what she called simple comfort food: herb-crusted chicken, roasted vegetables from the garden, and fresh bread that filled the room with its aroma. To Maya, who usually ate peanut butter sandwiches for dinner, it was a feast. "So Maya," Eleanor said as they began eating, "tell me about yourself. How long have you been a nurse?" 3 years, Maya replied, cutting her chicken into small pieces. "I graduated from Georgia State's nursing program and started working at Mercy General right after." "And you enjoy it?" Maya's face lit up. "I love it. There's something special about being there for people during their most vulnerable moments. Every day is different, every patient has a story, and sometimes you get to be part of their healing journey." "What made you want to become a nurse?" Eleanor asked, genuinely interested. Maya paused, considering how much to share. "My grandmother raised me after my parents died in a car accident when I was 8. She got sick when I was in high school, diabetes complications, and spent a lot of time in the hospital. I watched the nurses take care of her, not just medically, but emotionally. They treated her with dignity and kindness when she was scared and in pain. I knew I wanted to be that person for other families." Eleanor's expression softened. "Your grandmother sounds like a special woman." "She was," Maya said, her voice catching slightly. "She passed away 2 years ago, right before I graduated nursing school. She never got to see me walk across that stage, but I know she would have been proud." Zoe, who had been listening intently, reached over and patted Maya's hand. "I bet she's watching from heaven, and she's super proud of you." Maya smiled, touched by the child's instinctive compassion. "Thank you, sweetheart. That's a beautiful thought. What about the interview today?" Eleanor asked gently. "The one you missed to help Zoe. What position were you applying for?" Maya felt a familiar pang of disappointment. "Nurse practitioner in pediatrics at Atlanta Children's Healthcare. It would have been a significant step up, better pay, more autonomy, the chance to really make a difference in children's lives." "And you gave that up for a stranger's child," Eleanor said, not as a question but as a statement of fact. "I couldn't leave her alone and scared," Maya said simply. "Some things are more important than career advancement." Eleanor exchanged a look with Rosa, who was refilling their water glasses. There was something in that glance that Maya couldn't interpret, but it felt significant. "Tell me about your work at Mercy General," Eleanor continued. "What's a typical day like?" Maya found herself opening up about her job. The challenges of working in an understaffed emergency department, the satisfaction of helping patients through crisis, the frustration of not having enough time or resources to provide the level of care she wanted to give. "We see everything," Maya explained. "Heart attacks, overdoses, car accidents, children with fevers, elderly people who just need someone to listen. Sometimes I feel like I'm putting band-aids on problems that need surgery, but every small kindness matters." "Do you have plans to continue your education?" Eleanor asked. "I'd love to," Maya admitted. "I've been saving up to go back to school for my master's degree, but it's slow going. Between rent, student loans from my bachelor's degree, and just living expenses, there's not much left over each month." "What would you study?" "Pediatric nurse practitioner, definitely. I did my clinical rotations in pediatrics and fell in love with it. Children are so resilient, so honest about their feelings. They don't hide behind pretenses the way adults do. When they're scared, they tell you. When they're happy, their whole face lights up. Working with them feels like the most authentic kind of nursing." Zoe had been quietly eating her vegetables, but she looked up at this. "Would you take care of kids like me?" "I would love to take care of kids like you," Maya said warmly. "Kids who are brave and smart and kind to people they've just met." After dinner, Eleanor suggested they move to the living room for coffee and dessert. The room was comfortable and lived in despite its elegance, with family photos scattered on side tables and well-worn books stacked on shelves. Maya noticed several pictures of Zoe at various ages, always with Eleanor, but she didn't see any photos of Zoe's parents. "Zoe, why don't you show Maya your favorite book while I get coffee?" Eleanor suggested. Zoe disappeared upstairs and returned with a worn copy of The Secret Garden. "This is my favorite," she announced, settling next to Maya on the sofa. "It's about a girl who finds a hidden garden and brings it back to life with love and hard work." "That's one of my favorites too," Maya said, genuinely delighted. "I read it when I was about your age. Will you read some to me?" Zoe asked hopefully. Maya looked to Eleanor, who nodded encouragingly. "I'd love to." As Maya read aloud, her voice bringing the familiar story to life, Eleanor watched from her chair with an expression of deep thoughtfulness. There was something about the way Maya interacted with Zoe, natural, unforced, genuinely caring, that spoke to Eleanor's heart. When Zoe began to yawn, Eleanor announced it was bedtime. "Say goodnight to Maya, darling." Zoe hugged Maya tightly. "Will I see you again?" "I hope so," Maya said, meaning it. "You're a very special little girl, Zoe." After Zoe went upstairs with Rosa, Eleanor and Maya sat in comfortable silence for a moment, sipping their coffee. "She's wonderful," Maya said. "You're raising an amazing child." "She's been through a lot," Eleanor said quietly. Her parents, well, they're very focused on their careers. International business. They travel constantly and have little time for a child. Zoe has lived with me since she was 3. Maya felt a pang of recognition. It's hard when parents aren't present, even when they're still alive. "Yes," Eleanor agreed. "But children are resilient. With enough love and stability, they can overcome almost anything." "You're giving her that," Maya observed. "Love, stability, a sense of security. That's everything." Eleanor studied Maya's face in the soft lamplight. "You understand children in a way that can't be taught. It's a gift." "I just remember what it felt like to be scared and alone," Maya said. "If I can prevent another child from feeling that way, even for a few minutes, it's worth it." As the evening wound down, Eleanor insisted that her driver take Maya home. "It's the least I can do after you've given us such a lovely evening." "Thank you," Maya said as they stood in the foyer. "This has been unexpected." "Wonderful, but unexpected. The best things in life usually are," Eleanor replied, echoing her earlier words. In the car on the way home, Maya stared out the window at the city lights, trying to process the day's events. She'd started the morning with such clear plans. Interview, new job, better future. Instead, she'd missed the interview, spent the evening with strangers who felt like friends, and experienced a glimpse of a world she'd never imagined. Her phone buzzed with another text from Keisha. "Girl, where are you? I'm dying to hear about the interview." Maya typed back, "On my way home." You're not going to believe this story. When she arrived at her small apartment, the contrast was jarring. After spending the evening in Eleanor's mansion, her own place felt even smaller, more worn around the edges. But it was home, and Maya had learned to find contentment in what she had rather than longing for what she didn't. Keisha was waiting with a bottle of cheap champagne and takeout Chinese food. "Okay, spill everything. Did you get the job? When do you start? Are we celebrating or commiserating?" Maya kicked off her shoes and sank onto the couch next to her roommate and best friend. "I didn't get the job. I didn't even make it to the interview." Keisha's face fell. "Oh, honey, what happened? Car trouble? Did you get sick?" "I helped a lost little girl find her grandmother," Maya said simply. "And that made you miss your interview?" Maya told the whole story. Finding Zoe crying outside the hospital, staying with her instead of going to the interview, meeting Eleanor, the dinner at the mansion. Keisha listened with growing amazement. Wait, Keisha said when Maya finished. "You're telling me you gave up your dream job to babysit some rich kid, and then had dinner at their mansion?" "It wasn't babysitting," Maya protested. She was scared and alone. "I couldn't just leave her." I know, Keisha said, softening. "That's exactly what you would do. It's one of the things I love about you. You can't walk past someone who needs help. But Maya, that job, you worked so hard for that opportunity." "I know," Maya said quietly. "But I made the right choice." "I know I did." Keisha studied her friend's face. "You really believe that, don't you?" "I do. Some things are more important than career advancement." "What are you going to do now?" "About work, I mean." Maya sighed, feeling the weight of reality settling back on her shoulders. "Start over, I guess. Look for other opportunities. Keep working at Mercy General until something else comes along." "And the rich grandmother? Think you'll see them again?" Maya shrugged. "Probably not. We live in very different worlds. Tonight was nice, but it was just one evening." But as Maya got ready for bed, she found herself thinking about Eleanor's penetrating green eyes and the way she'd studied Maya throughout the evening, as if she were solving a puzzle. There had been something in Eleanor's expression, a thoughtfulness that suggested their meeting had meant more to her than simple gratitude. Maya fell asleep that night not knowing that Eleanor Montgomery was lying awake in her own bed, thinking about the young nurse who had sacrificed her own opportunity to comfort a frightened child. Eleanor had lived long enough to recognize true character when she saw it, and what she'd seen in Maya Johnson had given her an idea that could change both their lives forever. Maya chose compassion over career advancement and doesn't regret it, even though it cost her a dream job. She's back to her humble life, not expecting anything in return for her kindness. But Eleanor Montgomery is a woman who recognizes true character when she sees it. What do you think is going through Eleanor's mind as she reflects on this remarkable young nurse? Sometimes the most generous acts happen when we think no one important is watching, but someone always is. 3 days after the dinner at Eleanor's mansion, Maya was back in the familiar rhythm of her life at Mercy General. The emergency department was particularly chaotic that Thursday morning. 2 ambulances had arrived simultaneously, the waiting room was packed, and they were short-staffed because one of the nurses had called in sick. Maya moved efficiently between patients, her mind focused on the immediate needs in front of her. Room 4 had an elderly man with chest pains whose daughter was pacing the hallway. Room 7 contained a teenager who'd been in a skateboarding accident and was trying to act tough despite obvious pain. The waiting room held a young mother with twin toddlers, both running fevers. "Maya," called Dr. Rodriguez from behind the nurse's station. "Can you take the walk-in in bed too? Possible food poisoning, but she's asking specifically for you." Maya looked up, surprised. Patients rarely asked for specific nurses, especially ones they'd never met. Did she give a name? Said her name was Elena Martinez. Older Hispanic woman, very well-dressed. "She seemed to know you." Maya frowned, trying to place the name, then shrugged and headed to bed too. She pulled back the curtain to find a woman in her 70s, impeccably dressed despite her obvious discomfort. The woman had silver hair styled in an elegant chignon and wore expensive jewelry, but her face was pale and she was holding a basin. "Mrs. Martinez? I'm Maya Johnson. I understand you asked for me specifically." The woman looked up with relief. "Yes, dear. I heard from a friend that you're the most compassionate nurse here. I'm so embarrassed to be here, but I've been sick all night and my regular doctor couldn't see me until next week." Maya immediately shifted into professional mode, pulling up a chair beside the bed. "There's nothing to be embarrassed about. Let's figure out what's going on. Can you tell me about your symptoms?" For the next 20 minutes, Maya provided the same careful, attentive care she gave all her patients. She took a detailed history, administered anti-nausea medication, and sat with Mrs. Martinez during the worst waves of nausea, holding a cool cloth to her forehead and speaking in soothing tones. "You're an angel," Mrs. Martinez said weakly. "I can see why people speak so highly of you." "What people?" Maya asked, curious. "Oh, you know how word gets around in the medical community," Mrs. Martinez said vaguely. "Good nurses develop reputations." After Mrs. Martinez was discharged with instructions for rest and hydration, Maya thought little more about the encounter. She was too busy with the steady stream of patients that filled her day. What Maya didn't know was that Elena Martinez was actually Elena Vasquez, Eleanor Montgomery's longtime friend and former business partner. Eleanor had asked Elena to visit Mercy General and observe Maya in her natural environment, to see if the compassion and professionalism she'd witnessed at dinner extended to her everyday work. That evening, Elena called Eleanor with her report. "She's exactly as you described," Elena said. "Professional, compassionate, and completely genuine. She treated me like I was the most important patient in the hospital, even though the place was chaos around her. And Eleanor, she stayed 20 minutes past her shift to make sure I was stable before discharge. Unpaid overtime, just because she cared." Eleanor smiled, making notes in a leather-bound journal she kept on her desk. "Thank you, Elena. I owe you a favor." "What are you planning, Eleanor?" "I know that tone." "Just gathering information," Eleanor said mysteriously. "Maya Johnson is a remarkable young woman, and I want to understand the full scope of her character." The next day, Maya was surprised to receive a delivery at work, a beautiful arrangement of flowers with a note. "Thank you for your exceptional care yesterday. You made a frightening experience bearable. Elena Martinez." "Someone's got an admirer," teased Janet, Maya's supervisor, as Maya read the card. "Just a grateful patient," Maya said, but she was touched by the gesture. It wasn't often that patients followed up after discharge, and the flowers brightened the sterile nurse's station. Over the following week, Eleanor orchestrated several more tests of Maya's character, though Maya remained completely unaware of the observation. On Saturday, Maya was grocery shopping at her usual store, a discount chain where she carefully compared prices and used coupons to stretch her budget. She was debating between name-brand and generic pasta sauce when she noticed an elderly man in a wheelchair struggling to reach items on a high shelf. Can I help you with something? Maya asked, approaching the man. Oh, would you? I need that box of cereal up there, but I can't quite reach it. Maya retrieved the cereal, then noticed the man's shopping list was long and many items were on high shelves. Would you like me to help you with your shopping? I'm not in a hurry. For the next 30 minutes, Maya helped the man navigate the store, reaching high items, comparing prices when he asked, and even helping him load groceries into his car. She refused his offer of money for her help. You're very kind, young lady, the man said as they finished. Not many people would take time out of their day for a stranger. It was no trouble at all, Maya replied. I hope you have a good rest of your weekend. What Maya didn't know was that the man, Robert Chun, was Eleanor's neighbor and had been asked to accidentally encounter Maya during her weekend errands. Robert called Eleanor that evening with glowing reports of Maya's helpfulness and genuine kindness. She didn't just grab the cereal and leave, Robert told Eleanor. She spent her entire shopping trip helping me, and when I tried to tip her, she looked genuinely confused by the offer. This young woman has a servant's heart, Eleanor. Eleanor made more notes in her journal, her plan becoming clearer with each positive report. The following Tuesday, Maya was taking the bus home from work when she noticed a young mother struggling with 2 small children and several bags of groceries. One of the children was crying, the other was trying to escape his mother's grip, and the woman looked overwhelmed and exhausted. Without hesitation, Maya stood up and approached them. Would you like some help? The woman looked up gratefully. Oh, would you? I'm trying to get home, but everything's falling apart. Maya helped carry the groceries, entertained the fussy toddler with silly faces, and even gave up her seat so the mother could sit with her children. When they reached the woman's stop, Maya helped carry everything to the apartment building. I don't know how to thank you, the woman said. I was having such a terrible day, and you made it better. We all need help sometimes, Maya said simply. I'm glad I could be there. The woman, Maria Santos, was another of Eleanor's carefully placed observers. That evening, she called Eleanor with her report. Mrs. Montgomery, I have to ask, how did you know she would help? I mean, most people on the bus just looked away when I was struggling. I had a feeling about her character, Eleanor said, but I needed to be sure. Well, you can be sure. That young woman has a heart of gold. She didn't just help, she made my children laugh. She was patient when my son spilled juice on her uniform, and she refused to let me pay for her bus fare home after she missed her stop helping us. Eleanor's journal was filling with observations, each one confirming what she'd suspected from the moment she met Maya. But she had one more test in mind, the most important one. On Friday evening, Maya was walking home from the bus stop when she heard shouting from an alley between 2 buildings. Her nursing instincts kicked in immediately. Someone might be hurt and need help. She approached cautiously and saw a homeless man sitting against a wall, clearly in distress. A group of teenagers was standing nearby, laughing and throwing things at him. Hey, Maya called out firmly. Leave him alone. The teenagers looked at her with surprise and mild hostility. Mind your own business, lady, one of them said. This is my business, Maya replied, walking directly toward the homeless man despite the potential danger. Are you hurt? She asked the man gently. The man looked up with rheumy eyes, clearly under the influence of something, but also clearly in pain. My leg, he mumbled. I think it's broken. Maya knelt beside him, ignoring the smell and the dirt, and carefully examined his leg. It was indeed broken, and he needed immediate medical attention. I'm calling an ambulance, she told him, then turned to the teenagers who were still standing around. You should be ashamed of yourselves. This man needs help, not harassment. The teenagers, faced with Maya's moral authority and the approaching sound of sirens, scattered quickly. Maya stayed with the homeless man until the ambulance arrived, holding his hand and talking to him in soothing tones. She even rode with him to the hospital and stayed until he was admitted and receiving proper care. What Maya didn't know was that the entire incident had been witnessed by James Morrison, Eleanor's head of security, who had been discreetly following Maya on Eleanor's instructions. James had been prepared to intervene if the situation became dangerous, but he'd watched in amazement as Maya handled the confrontation with courage and compassion. Mrs. Montgomery, James reported that night, I've been in security for 20 years, and I've never seen anything like it. She put herself at risk to help a homeless man she'd never met, stood up to a group of hostile teenagers, and then spent her entire evening making sure he got proper medical care. She didn't even think about her own safety. Eleanor closed her journal and leaned back in her chair. After a week of careful observation, she had all the confirmation she needed. Maya Johnson wasn't just kind in comfortable circumstances. She was genuinely good, consistently compassionate, and morally courageous even when it cost her personally. It was time to move to the next phase of her plan. The following Monday, Maya arrived at work to find Janet waiting for her with an unusual expression. "Maya, I need to talk to you," Janet said. "There's been a development." Maya's heart sank. Had she done something wrong? Was she being fired? What kind of development? "I got a call this morning from Atlanta Children's Healthcare. Apparently, there's been some kind of reconsideration regarding the nurse practitioner position you interviewed for." Maya stared at her supervisor in confusion. "But I didn't interview. I missed the appointment." "I know. That's what makes this so strange. They want to schedule a meeting with you. Not an interview, a meeting. With the hospital administrator and the head of pediatrics." Maya felt a flutter of hope mixed with confusion. "Did they say why?" "No, but Maya." Janet paused, studying her employee's face. "I've been doing this for 15 years, and I've never heard of a hospital calling back someone who missed their interview. Something unusual is happening here." Maya's mind raced. Could this somehow be connected to Eleanor Montgomery? But that seemed impossible. Eleanor was just a grandmother she'd helped, not someone with influence at major hospitals. "When do they want to meet?" Maya asked. "Tomorrow at 10 a.m. And Maya, whatever's happening, you deserve it. You're the best nurse I've ever supervised, and if someone finally recognizes that, I'm happy for you." That evening, Maya called Keisha with the news. "Girl, this is weird," Keisha said. "Hospitals don't just change their minds like that. Someone pulled some strings." "But who? I don't know anyone with that kind of influence." "What about the rich grandmother? Eleanor what's her name?" Maya shook her head, even though Keisha couldn't see her. "Eleanor Montgomery is wealthy, but she's not connected to the medical field. She was just a patient's grandmother." "Maya, honey, you are so naive sometimes. Rich people know other rich people, and rich people sit on hospital boards." Maya felt a chill of realization. Could Eleanor have somehow arranged this meeting? But why would she do that for someone she'd only met once? As Maya prepared for bed that night, she couldn't shake the feeling that forces beyond her understanding were at work in her life. The week had been full of small coincidences, grateful patients, chance encounters, unexpected kindnesses returned. It was as if the universe was conspiring to reward her for the choice she'd made to help Zoe. But Maya had no idea that the universe had a very specific name, Eleanor Montgomery, a woman who had spent her entire career recognizing talent and character, and who had just spent a week confirming that Maya Johnson possessed both in abundance. Maya has been unknowingly tested and observed, and she's passed every test with flying colors. Her consistent kindness, even when no one important seems to be watching, has caught the attention of someone with the power to change her life. Have you ever wondered who might be watching when you choose to do the right thing? Sometimes our character is being evaluated in ways we never realize. What do you think Eleanor Montgomery is planning for Maya? Maya arrived at Atlanta Children's Healthcare 15 minutes early, her hands slightly trembling as she clutched the same worn portfolio that had accompanied her to the missed interview 2 weeks ago. This time, however, she wasn't meeting with HR or the nursing department. The receptionist had directed her to the executive floor, a place she'd never imagined she'd have reason to visit. The elevator doors opened to reveal a world of polished marble, original artwork, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Atlanta skyline. Maya's reflection in the gleaming surfaces reminded her of how out of place she looked in her discount store blazer, but she held her head high. Whatever was happening, she would face it with dignity. "Ms. Johnson," a professionally dressed woman approached with a warm smile. "I'm Sarah Chun, executive assistant to Dr. Patricia Williams, our chief medical officer. She's ready to see you now." Maya followed Sarah down a hallway lined with photographs of the hospital's history, groundbreaking surgeries, award ceremonies, community outreach programs. She paused briefly at a photo showing a ribbon-cutting ceremony for a new pediatric wing, noting the familiar face of a silver-haired woman in the background of the crowd. "Ms. Johnson." Sarah had stopped at a set of double doors. "Dr. Williams is waiting." The office was spacious and elegant, with medical degrees and awards covering one wall and family photos scattered across a mahogany desk. Dr. Patricia Williams, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and graying hair, stood to greet Maya with a handshake. "Ms. Johnson, thank you for coming. Please have a seat." Can I offer you coffee or water? Water would be nice, thank you, Maya said, settling into a leather chair that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Dr. Williams poured water from a crystal pitcher and studied Maya with the same intense attention Eleanor had shown at dinner. I imagine you're wondering why you're here, especially given the circumstances of your missed interview. Yes, ma'am. I have to admit I'm confused. Let me start by saying that your reputation precedes you, Ms. Johnson. We've received some remarkable recommendations about your character and clinical skills. Maya frowned. Recommendations? From whom? Dr. Williams smiled mysteriously. Let's just say that certain members of our community have taken notice of your work. But before we discuss that, I'd like to know more about you. Tell me about your journey to nursing. Maya took a sip of water, gathering her thoughts. I became a nurse because of my grandmother, really. She raised me after my parents died, and when she got sick, I saw how much difference compassionate care could make. Your parents died when you were young? 8 years old. Car accident on I-285 during a thunderstorm. Maya's voice was steady, but Dr. Williams could hear the old pain beneath the words. My grandmother, Dolores Johnson, took me in without hesitation. She was a housekeeper at the Ritz-Carlton downtown, worked double shifts to support us both. That must have been difficult. Maya nodded. Grandmama never complained, but I knew money was tight. She'd pack my lunch every day, but I noticed she often didn't pack one for herself. She'd say she wasn't hungry, but I knew she was saving money. When I got older, I started working part-time jobs to help out. What kind of jobs? Anything I could find. I bagged groceries after school, cleaned offices on weekends, tutored younger kids for a few dollars an hour. During high school, I worked at a nursing home as a dietary aide. That's where I first really interacted with nurses and saw what they did. Dr. Williams leaned forward, genuinely interested. What did you see? Maya's face lit up with the memory. There was this one nurse, Mrs. Patterson. She'd been working there for 20 years, and she knew every resident's story. She remembered that Mr. Garcia liked his coffee with 2 sugars, that Mrs. Thompson got anxious during thunderstorms, that Mr. Lee's daughter visited every Tuesday and brought him crossword puzzles. She made each person feel seen and valued. And that inspired you to become a nurse? Not immediately. I thought nursing school was beyond my reach financially. But when Grandmama got sick during my senior year of high school, diabetes complications, we spent a lot of time in hospitals. I watched the nurses care for her, and I realized that's what I wanted to do with my life. Maya paused, lost in the memory. There was one night when Grandmama was really scared. Her blood sugar had dropped dangerously low, and she was confused and frightened. This nurse, Jennifer, sat with her for hours, even though it wasn't her assigned patient. She held Grandmama's hand and sang old hymns until she calmed down. That's when I knew. How did you manage to pay for nursing school? It took me 6 years instead of 4. I worked full-time during the day and took classes at night. Grandmama was so proud when I got accepted to Georgia State's nursing program. She framed my acceptance letter and hung it on the refrigerator. Dr. Williams noticed the way Maya's voice softened when she spoke about her grandmother. She sounds like an extraordinary woman. She was everything to me. She taught me that kindness doesn't cost anything, but it's worth everything. She used to say, Maya, baby, we might not have much money, but we're rich in love and character. That's the kind of wealth that matters. When did she pass away? Maya's composure wavered slightly. 2 years ago, right before my nursing school graduation. She'd been fighting complications from diabetes for years, but she was determined to see me graduate. She made it to within 3 weeks of the ceremony. I'm so sorry. The hardest part was that she'd worked so hard to help me achieve my dream, but she never got to see me walk across that stage. I graduated with honors, and all I wanted was to share that moment with her. Dr. Williams was quiet for a moment, allowing Maya to compose herself. What happened after graduation? I started at Mercy General immediately. I needed the job, I had student loans, rent, and I was completely on my own for the first time. Mercy General isn't the most prestigious hospital, but they hired me, and I was grateful. How do you find working there? Maya chose her words carefully. It's challenging. We're understaffed and under-resourced, but the work is meaningful. Every day, I get to help people during some of the worst moments of their lives. That's a privilege, even when the conditions aren't ideal. What are your long-term goals? I want to become a pediatric nurse practitioner. Children have always been my passion. There's something about their resilience and honesty that inspires me. I've been saving money to go back to school, but it's slow going. Dr. Williams nodded thoughtfully. Ms. Johnson, I'm going to share something with you that might surprise you. The reason you're here today has to do with a recommendation from one of our most significant benefactors. Maya felt her heart skip. A benefactor? Eleanor Montgomery. Perhaps you know the name. Maya's eyes widened. Eleanor Montgomery? The grandmother of the little girl I helped? But I don't understand. How is she connected to the hospital? Dr. Williams smiled. Ms. Johnson, Eleanor Montgomery isn't just any grandmother. She's one of the most successful businesswomen in the Southeast and one of our hospital's largest donors. The Montgomery Foundation has contributed over $50 million to Atlanta children's health care over the past decade. Maya felt the room spin slightly. $50 million? The Montgomery Pediatric Research Center, the Montgomery Family Therapy Wing, the Montgomery Emergency Department, all funded by Eleanor's foundation. She's been instrumental in making this hospital what it is today. Maya thought back to the elegant mansion, the staff, the obvious wealth, but $50 million in donations was beyond anything she'd imagined. I had no idea. Eleanor called me personally after meeting you. She told me about how you missed your interview to help her granddaughter, and she asked me to look into your background and qualifications. She asked you to look into me? Dr. Williams nodded. Eleanor has an eye for talent and character. Over the years, she's recommended several people to us, doctors, nurses, administrators. Every single one has been exceptional. When Eleanor Montgomery recommends someone, we pay attention. Maya felt overwhelmed. But I don't understand why she would do that for me. I just helped a scared little girl. Ms. Johnson, do you know what Eleanor told me about you? Dr. Williams leaned forward. She said, I've met a young nurse who chose compassion over career advancement, and I believe she represents the future of pediatric care. She asked me to consider creating a position specifically for you. Creating a position? A pediatric nurse practitioner role in our new family-centered care program. It would involve working directly with children and their families, developing care plans that address not just medical needs, but emotional and social needs as well. It's exactly the kind of holistic approach you described wanting to pursue. Maya stared at Dr. Williams in disbelief. Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you an opportunity, Ms. Johnson. But first, I need to know, are you interested in going back to school to complete your nurse practitioner degree? Of course, but I can't afford. Dr. Williams held up a hand. The Montgomery Foundation has established a scholarship program for exceptional nurses pursuing advanced degrees. Full tuition, plus a living stipend, plus guaranteed employment upon graduation. Maya felt tears welling up in her eyes. I don't understand. Why would Eleanor do this for me? Because she recognizes something special in you, Ms. Johnson. And frankly, after reviewing your file and speaking with your current supervisor, I agree with her assessment. Maya thought about her grandmother, about all the sacrifices Dolores Johnson had made to help her granddaughter achieve her dreams. She thought about the nights she'd studied by lamplight because they couldn't afford to keep all the lights on, about the meals of rice and beans when money was tight, about her grandmother's proud smile when Maya brought home good grades. There's something else, Dr. Williams continued. Eleanor would like to meet with you again, to discuss the details of the program and to get to know you better. She's very invested in the success of the people she sponsors. Sponsors. Ms. Johnson, Eleanor Montgomery doesn't just donate money to causes she believes in, she invests in people. Over the years, she's sponsored dozens of students, helped launch careers, and created opportunities for people who might not otherwise have them. She sees potential where others see obstacles. Maya wiped away a tear that had escaped despite her efforts to maintain composure. My grandmother always said that angels come in unexpected forms. Your grandmother sounds like she was a wise woman. She was, and she would have loved Eleanor Montgomery. Dr. Williams stood up and walked to her window, looking out at the city below. Ms. Johnson, I want you to understand something. This opportunity isn't charity. Eleanor doesn't believe in handouts. She believes in hand-ups. You'll be expected to excel academically, to contribute meaningfully to our hospital community, and to eventually pay forward the investment that's being made in you. I understand. Do you? Because this isn't just about you anymore. If you accept this opportunity, you'll be representing not just yourself, but Eleanor's faith in your potential. That's a significant responsibility. Maya thought about the weight of that responsibility, about the trust Eleanor was placing in her, about the opportunity to honor her grandmother's memory by achieving everything Dolores Johnson had dreamed for her granddaughter. Dr. Williams, I've never wanted anything more in my life than to be the kind of nurse who makes a real difference in children's lives. If Mrs. Montgomery is willing to invest in that dream, I promise I won't let her down. Dr. Williams smiled and returned to her desk. I believe you, Ms. Johnson. Eleanor will be pleased to hear that. She's invited you to dinner tomorrow evening to discuss the details. I hope you'll accept. As Maya left the hospital that day, her mind was reeling with the magnitude of what had just happened. The scared little girl she'd comforted 2 weeks ago was the granddaughter of one of the most powerful women in Atlanta. The simple act of kindness she'd performed without thought of reward had somehow opened doors she'd never imagined possible. But more than that, she was beginning to understand that Eleanor Montgomery was a woman who saw potential in people and had the power to transform lives. Maya had been chosen not just for her clinical skills, but for her character, for the values her grandmother had instilled in her, for the compassion that drove her to help a crying child, even when it cost her personally. Maya's simple act of kindness has revealed connections and opportunities beyond her wildest dreams. Eleanor Montgomery isn't just wealthy. She's a woman who invests in people's potential and has the power to change lives. Sometimes the people we help in small moments turn out to be exactly the people who can help us achieve our biggest dreams. Have you ever wondered what might happen if you treated every person you meet as if they could change your life? Because sometimes they can. Part 2 is already waiting for you, and trust me, you won't want to miss it. Click it now, and let's keep going.